You've landed on The Substance. I'm your host, Philip Marinello, saying thanks for joining us. Gonna keep things short and sweet today, as this is our April Fool's bonus episode. And actually, both Abby and myself will be busy the week. If you listen to this at the week it drops, we'll both be busy covering Panic Fest here in Kansas City at Screenland Armor. Look out for coverage of that probably soon, relatively soon here on the feed. But yeah, thanks for joining us. If you're new to The Substance, we are looking to have conversations that help us all better appreciate goodness, truth, and beauty. Previous guests include folks like Film Spotting's Josh Larson, Elliot Cohen, author and screenwriter Megan Abbott, actor, director John Carroll Lynch, Dan McCoy of the Flophouse podcast, and our pals Mitchell and Slim over at Letterboxd. This week, we talk about one of the maybe getting slightly reclaimed films from the Wachowskis, who you probably know from The Matrix, Jupiter Ascending. It is a wild movie, relatively underseen, so if you want to go see it, check it out. Fun little movie, and enjoy my conversation here with Abby Olcese.
You gonna be at a Panic Fest this weekend?
Oh yes, yeah, I am
I'm
excited.
very excited.
Just sit and watch some movies and
Man, I'm so excited. So I applied. I didn't get a press badge this year,
Okay.
but I got in. I'm volunteering. Like I'm
Hey.
working like a cumulative of like 6 or 7 hours. I'm working like the 8:30 to midnight Saturday and Sunday, and then I get unlimited passes now. So
sick.
I'm gonna be at both shows tomorrow, and then
Yeah.
a bunch over the weekend and next week.
Good. I know I'm going to Hell of a Summer tomorrow night. What else is tomorrow night?
Halloween.
Oh yeah.
The Curse of Michael Myers 30th
Okay.
anniversary.
Oh, that'll be fun.
A lot of people are speculating if Casey native Paul Rudd will be there for his Halloween movie.
Oh, I doubt that.
That was one of
much,
his
but-
first movies.
I know. Yeah, that would be a real get.
I'm bringing my I Love You Man DVD just in case to get him.
Have they hinted anything?
They have talked about guests being there over the course of things, but not specifically for this one. But it's also like, I know some people say it's underrated. It's not. I don't know. Have you seen the Halloween franchise?
I mean, I've seen 1 and 3, and that's it.
Those are the best.
Yeah.
And controversially, like I go back and forth with what order to put them, but those are the two best.
Yeah. I know about the Cult of Thorn. I feel like I kind of want to know. I want to get involved
sure.
and find out about
I think you might dig.
I
Like
might be into
there's
it.
some fun stuff there, but it's
Yeah.
not great.
There was one moment when I was at Screenland for something completely different, and it was when the Halloween remakes were coming out. And I remember being in the bathroom and hearing these two girls at the sink, and they were talking about like, do they ever talk about like why Michael Myers is Michael Myers? And I wanted to like kick the door open and be like, what do you know about the Cult of Thorn? But that's it.
Or the terrible Rob Zombie.
Yeah,
first
exactly.
one.
Exactly.
I kind of
like, there are
come
answers.
around. I like the second one, but the first Rob Zombie movie I think is just like misery porn, and it's just awful.
Sure.
It's like, here's how here's how somebody turns terrible, and it's like, that's not fun.
Right. That's all I want to know is that he
movies.
had the blackest eyes, a doll's eyes. That's all you need to tell me, and then I'm good. I'm like, yeah, evil child, great. Yeah, I don't need any more backstory.
But I mean, I am very much looking forward to seeing The Curse of Michael Myers with a giant crowd.
Yeah.
Are you gonna be there for that, or just the Hell of a Summer?
We'll see. Because when I don't have a ticket for that, but I can look into that and see if I can snag something, just because it would be fun.
Are you getting press passes?
I do have a press pass.
Nice.
So I've reserved all my tickets that I was committed to. So
I did that the first round, and then I was like, well, I've got all these. Yeah. I can go to whatever. So like, I'm going a little hard.
Good. I was debating that. So the deal is I am like heading out of town on like next Wednesday to go to New York for a few days, and so I am trying to conserve my energy.
I'm trying to figure. I've talked to some of my festival attending friends. So it's like I'm not that I'm not quite middle aged. Like I'm in my like late youth, and I'm just trying to like energy management, because like I think on some of the days I'm seeing like 4 movies in one day.
Oh man, yeah. I don't think I'm doing that much on any of the days. I'm doing the most I'm doing, I think, is 3 on Saturday. I'm
so annoyed that I didn't get. I can't go on Saturday. I really want to see Marshmallow.
Oh yeah. It's fortunately we have two people coming from the pitch. So like I'm covering it and Adrian's covering it. And so I'm able to kind of divide and conquer. I was like, I'm going to pick the ones that I really want to see. I'm going to give
Nice.
you like let you pick from the ones that I think we need to cover. Um so
Well, if you
I have
guys need an
seen
extra,
yeah, it's
I
true.
was trying to
Okay.
pitch some outlets to be like,
Okay.
hey, I'll be there. Let me cover it for you.
Yeah. I think part of the deal is that like they have a weird coverage requirement. Like you need to publish like X number of stories. And so like if it gets to the point where we're each like running 5 things, it's just like this is insane. You don't have that many movies. So we'll see. But yeah, I can tell you right off the bat, I have seen The Severed Son and 1978 because they were at Nightmare in the Ozarks, and you do not need to see those. They are not
I
good.
didn't. Those are not on my list.
Yeah. The Severed Son is just okay. 1978 drove me crazy because in the opening scene, there's like a bunch of Argentinian like terrorists sitting around a table and they're drinking whiskey. And the whiskey is out of a, like, no joke, a bottle of bullet bourbon that could have come from down the street. And I was like, well, if that's the level of care you're going to put into the production design of this movie, I do not need to be here. And so. Like I stuck it out for like another like 15 minutes to see if it got any better, and I was like, I can leave.
Yeah. Indie film is
I know.
it can go either way.
I know. Yeah, it can. But yeah, and even like under indie standards, I was like, just what does it cost you to go to IKEA and get a blank bottle that you can just fill out with
That's
like,
true.
I don't know, generic brown water? Like you don't have to get like a bottle of bullet
What
where it's
else is
embossed and like
coming
there's no way
on?
for it not to be that bottle. Anyway.
Clown in a Cornfield and Ugly Stepsister is supposed to be fun for the
That's
closers on Wednesday.
right. Yeah, I'm gonna
And then The
shoot.
Shrouds. I've never seen a Cronenberg
Yeah, I am doing
horror
the Shrouds.
in a theater.
Yeah,
I've only
Wednesday.
seen his dramas in a theater. I've never seen a horror
Yeah,
of his in a theater.
Wednesday I am skipping out on because I'm supposed to be packing. But
Makes sense.
yeah, for flying out on Thursday. But we'll see. I don't Clown in a Cornfield though. I don't know. We'll see if I can get some screeners for some of those things. But
That and I'm working on my and Chainsaws We're Singing also looks very fun.
yeah, and that one I think we've covered from a previous iteration of
That's been
Fantastic
in
Fest, maybe.
festivals.
Yeah, it's been at festivals. So like there were a couple where I'm like, yeah, we've covered that already. That one's good.
Nice.
Yeah, but I
And
think
I want
it's
to
a
see
really
I'm not going to get to because I would have to pay for it, and I'm already seeing way too many movies in one
yeah.
week. But that Texas Chainsaw Massacre
Yeah,
50th anniversary
I am seeing
documentary
that. I'm so excited. It's going to be so much fun.
that looks really wonderful.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I
I'll probably see it
I've
on
been,
like Canopy or something,
yeah,
but I'm
I've been
whenever I see it, I'm excited.
I've been thinking about that guy. I think it's super cool that he has built an entire career out of just like breaking down iconic movies and
I
iconic
love that.
filmmakers. Like that's and I mean he ended up in like the Criterion collection with Lynch Oz. That's pretty freaking cool. I just thought like
That's
the
a
man
great one. I enjoyed
yeah,
that a lot.
the man found his niche and he did it. And I was like that's like as a person who works within a very specific niche, I was like, yeah, man, get that bag. Good for you. So, anyway, yeah, I'm excited for this one too.
So it's a little bit. I mean, this is basically like a bonus episode anyway here.
Yeah.
Uh I'm a little sad. I might reach out to her. I might cut this out. I might reach out to her and ask her for like a little VM when she gets her voice back.
That'd be
But was
great.
sad
Yeah.
to hear
I
about
know.
Sarah's
I
because we kind
know.
of like planned this on the fly on Blue Sky. Now that we're on like
Oh,
was it hashtag Film Sky is now what it's
yeah.
called instead of Film
Yeah.
Twitter.
Yeah.
Um, I found that you guys were singing the praises of Jupiter Ascending, and I was like, April Fool's Day episode. There it
It's
is.
the two of us and like literally nobody else. Yeah, I mean or people who are just like, yeah, it's kind of cheesy and funny. Like, no, it's a good movie. Although I don't know, this time I was a little bit less
Same.
I was like,
Same.
these people might be a little bit right.
So, okay. We don't really have for these. We've done a few of these in the past. I mean, over the last few years, we've done the April Fool's episodes, but
Mhm.
I'd love to hear like, did you see it on its first run? Were you excited to see it on your first run? Did you cover it? Like, what was your thoughts going into it your first time, and like, how did that
Oh
go?
man. So my first knowledge that it even existed, I think, was just like watching a trailer for it online. Because when did it come out? It was 2013, right?
I don't recall.
Okay.
Pause for editing. 2015.
Okay, 2015. So yeah, okay. So I think I saw like a teaser trailer for it at some point. Because I remember I
10th
was not.
anniversary April
Yeah,
Fool's episode.
there you go. Yeah, I was not living in Kansas at the time, if I recall correctly, and I just
Oh,
thought,
okay.
oh, that looks like a cool trailer. I enjoy the Wachowskis, obviously, because they're great. This looks like it'll be, some space opera fun. And then I didn't watch it until it was out on then HBO Max, now Max. I think just because I'd heard like goofy reviews about it, and I was like, maybe I don't need to prioritize this. And then I just like watched it randomly one night on my laptop and was like, this is a perfect late night laptop movie.
It's
Also,
a
I'm kind of
wonderful like late night or weekend movie
yeah,
if you're just
totally,
looking for something fun.
absolutely. And so, like, I grew up as like a total fantasy girly who was really obsessed with like the idea of like the world that you live in is not the actual world. There's a cooler, better one beyond this one. Which I mean, you can read into whatever. You can read theologically into that whatever you want. I don't know that that's necessarily where it came from, but um, I grew up really into stories like this, and so being able to like watch something that was so just like purely goofy, like this giant space opera thing that has like all of these crazy visuals and the Eddie Redmayne performance, which I oh man, we can get into that. It's anyway, it was very much up my alley. It would have been like, had I seen this when I was 13, I would have made it a good chunk of my personality. So there's that.
Seeing it this time, so this was my second viewing. It did vibe a whole lot more fantasy than it did sci-fi.
Oh yeah.
Obviously, it's sci-fi, and I used it as sometimes I'll put quotes at the top of my letterbox reviews. I was watching one of the behind the scenes special features, and I was like, "Oh, that's gonna be the quote I use." It's from Channing Tatum in one
Oh
of the
boy.
behind the scenes documentaries. He says, "This movie, this movie's sci-fi. This movie's about as sci-fi as you can get." Like that was
Oh,
his
buddy.
summation of the of the movie. But yeah, it really did feel kind of like a YA fantasy novel that like but one of the things that I liked the first time a lot and I still like this time is its originality.
Mhm.
We need more original. I mean, maybe plan it out a little bit better. Maybe get your budget in order or expand it and film 3 movies all at once so that you can get all that return on your investment. Like, I really feel like and I don't always have this complaint, but I kind of feel like there should have been more. Like, there was so much potential. It was kinda like they did a trilogy or 2 like, a two-part story in one movie.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah, like,
you had
you
the
can
3 siblings who are trying to take control of Earth, and you had Jupiter's backstory, how Jupiter realizes everything, and then her adventure with each of the 3 different siblings trying to get her on their side, and the rescue, and the aftermath. I was like, "This is at least 2 movies.
yeah,
Maybe 3."
no.
Like, you don't want it to be 3. You don't wanna have, like, a Hobbit situation
Right.
where that could have been 2 movies, maybe, but,
Yeah.
but
I
at
mean, you
least
can
Jupiter Ascending could have been 2, and then like, there's like, that's a fertile ground because it's a completely new world, but there was just so much in this one movie.
yeah, no, I agree. I think you could really this time I really could notice how like choppy it felt. Like
Oh, yeah.
when you say something is tightly edited, you usually mean like it's very like no fat, like it's good. I would not say that the editing is a great thing in this. Like, it does the job, but like there are times when it just feels like it's moving at breakneck speed, and it really needs to like slow down and in certain spots kind of spend more time with the characters. Like when we meet Sean Bean's character and his daughter in
Exactly.
like their beehive house, that's so cool, and we spend like maybe 5 minutes there because like we gotta go.
Well,
And
yeah, and Sean Bean and Channing Tatum's backstory is interesting.
it
That could
is,
be like a little 20-30 minute flashback to like
yeah.
get like their whole story is super interesting. And we
And
have like a
his
couple of
daughter is
paragraphs of
interesting.
dialogue.
And
Yes.
like, and you find out later that she's sick with what? We don't know. It's just the sickness. And like that would be, maybe a little bit more of a interesting motivating force if we dug into it a little bit. So like most of the complaints that I have about this movie are like like you said, that there's not enough of it. Like you could spend more time in that universe. But like the other example that we maybe have of like another director trying to make like a Star Warsian space opera is like uh Zack Snyder doing Rebel Moon, and that's not good. It's not a good series. That's an issue of like a franchise having not nearly enough,
Way
you
too
know?
much wiggle room. Like no editor.
Yeah, yeah.
Are there 2 or 3 or a bunch of
I think
those?
there's two. I can't remember if there's meant to be a third one.
Maybe more.
Yeah, it's
I
just
haven't
there's
seen any of them. They came out, they were long, and then he's like, "Now my extended editions are coming out,"
exactly. It
right?
just yeah. No,
I'm
my
kind of
most of
curious. Like, he's such a wild guy. Like, I
yeah.
still do want to see his like 4-hour cut of Justice League at some point.
I mean, I've heard it's an improvement.
Yeah. His style is like epic. Uh 20% of the movie is in slow motion. Just a lot of long,
Yeah.
slow, heavy emotional score laden shots. And
I
yeah, I don't know.
yeah.
Interesting dude.
Yeah, I feel like the Wachowskis are kind of the polar opposite in that they are trying to achieve similar things, but they are such fantasists. And honestly, like I will take like excessive fantasism that sometimes doesn't work over
Well,
like
and it's
cutting
so
it down any
heartfelt
day of the
and
week.
genuine.
Yeah. Oh,
Like
absolutely.
there's
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
much heart.
Yeah. It's and like all of the we haven't talked about like the numerous like Brazil references that show up in this movie.
Sure.
Even though like aesthetically it's like it couldn't be further from Brazil. There's like a whole extended sequence where they go through basically just like bureaucratic hell to help Mila Kunis's character Jupiter like establish her like genetic claim to Earth, basically, like you are the owner of Earth. And it's just like form after form after form, and then it ends with like actual Terry Gilliam, like an
Yeah.
actual like cameo from him being like super committed and cute and funny in an office that is like maybe one of the best sets in the whole movie. um
Yeah, that
and
whole sequence was very good.
yeah, and then making a joke at the end about being able to use a 27B stroke 6 against you, and I was just like, that's okay, sure, do it. Like
Why
they're
not?
just why not? It's super fun. I think a lot of this movie kind of operates on the why not principle, which like I love that. I think that's great. I should there are times as a critic where I get like really pedantic about wanting to know the reason that things work the way they do. But every once in a while you just run into a story where you're aware from like moment one that the rules don't really matter.
Yeah.
But like in a
Well, and
fun
I don't
way.
mind that. I'm with you also. Like it can be really fun to kind of be like, this is us. This is a live action
Yeah.
cartoon, basically.
Right.
Like,
Like, do you really
whatever.
care that much about this pretend thing? Like, no, I really don't.
And it's
So,
so broad, and like that this is gonna be very like broad strokes. Like these are all like archetypes.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. I do think like some of it gets into really silly territory, like the fact that Channing Tatum's character Kane is like a literal bad dog that needs to be
So
put down because he
we
beat somebody
should
once.
talk a little bit about for listeners who are coming and having a good time. I hope you're having a good time. We should talk about like what is the broad strokes of this movie,
Oh
Abby?
boy. Yeah, so Mila Kunis's character is named Jupiter Jones. She is the daughter of a Russian refugee and the son of a British, I don't know, diplomat. Her father was killed before she was born, and now she lives in Chicago with her mom and their extended
Born very
working family
dramatically, like on a
on
voyage
a
to another
boat.
land,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
girl without a land kind of thing. Like,
Yeah.
so I started my rewatch like first thing in the morning, got up real early to rewatch it because I wasn't able to watch it earlier this week. And like, I'll say a couple of those emotional beats at the beginning really got
Oh,
me at like 6 in
very
the morning.
solid. Yeah, absolutely. And so she cleans houses with her mom. There are numerous shots of her just like scrubbing toilets in rich people's houses. But it turns out that unbeknownst to Jupiter, she is the genetic recurrence or like reincarnation of this this queen celestial being that had three children, all of whom are horrible in various ways, and all of whom have like land title claims to entire planets that they can like grow like fruit and then destroy.
Harvest for energy. That's like the
Harvest for
Wachowskis
energy
love
that keeps
doing that.
them exactly, that keeps them young. So like it's like the fantasy version exactly of like of what's going on in the Matrix, except that instead of just lots of different robots, you have four, I guess now three extremely rich
Basically
immortal
like
beings.
intergalactic oligarchs.
Yeah, exactly. Intergalactic oligarchs. And so they all want the claim to Earth because Earth is like the richest of the entire kind of set of planets that they have a claim to. And because Jupiter has like a genetic potential claim to Earth, they all want various things from her, most of which end in her death. But fortunately, she has this kind of soldier of fortune who is
Guard
working for
dog.
one of the families, who's a literal guard dog, who's played by Channing Tatum. He's what's called a splice, which are like humanoid beings that have been genetically spliced with some kind of animal to like gain parts of their abilities. So he's spliced with a dog. Later you meet his friend Sean Bean, who is genetically spliced with a bee, so he's really into bees. Later there's one that was spliced with an elephant, and he has an elephant head. Sure.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Okay, I remember that elephant guy. I didn't realize he was a
uh,
splice. Like, yeah, it's very, very like things go so fast.
they do, yeah,
But I
yeah.
thought
And
the
I
elephant
like
guy was great
the
CG.
elephant guy's cool. Yeah, he's good CG. It's so like it's kind of fun. One of the things that I like about the Wachowskis is that they sort of they drop some information on you and then they kind of expect you to keep up. And so like sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. I would argue that that's part of why the later Matrix sequels don't work as well. Because stuff is just like happening and you can't, like your brain
But
is
4 does
not
very
quite there
well.
yet. 4 is great. Um 2 and 3 have problems, but
True. Agreed.
yeah. But anyway, yeah, so Jupiter has to save the Earth essentially by maintaining her claim on it, by claiming it for herself and then protecting it from the interests of the other kind of almost vampiric siblings. One of whom is played by Eddie Redmayne in a wild performance that goes
Yeah.
from 0 to 300 million in the space of like 0.5 seconds. So
Another one of
it's a
those
lot.
actors to win the Oscar and the Razzie the same year, right?
Oh my goodness gracious. Oh yeah, for oh gosh. Did he win that for Danish Girl? Because that should have been a Razzie. That's
Didn't he win it for the Stephen Hawking movie?
oh, maybe he did. Yeah. One
He
of
won the
those.
Oscar for the Stephen Hawking, and then he got
He
a
did. That
Razzie
would have been
for
yeah, for 2015. Okay.
Jupiter.
Yep, sure. Yep. But yeah, it's I and still to this day, even though I've seen the movie like about a half dozen times, because it's one of those that I just throw on whenever I'm bored and I want a specific flavor of thing and I know it's going to deliver. I still have to kind of like wince a little bit and cover my ears whenever he's on screen because I don't know what he's going to do.
It's wild. His vibe is not cool.
It's yeah, and I've since come to realize that I think that might just be the way that he does things. Like I don't know
It's
if
fun
you
though.
it is, yeah. Like
He's a
sometimes it
fun little
really
creep. He's a
he's a
little
fun little
weirdo.
creep. Like I don't know if you watched the Tonys broadcast, but it was my first exposure to his actual performance as the MC in the Broadway uh revival of Cabaret, and it was just like people online were calling it sleep paralysis demon, and that's exactly what it was. And I just
Oof.
thought that's a series of choices, my man. I'm not sure if they're working for me, but go for it. Anyway, I jury is kind of out as to how I feel about him right now as an
The
actor.
first time,
It
so my
changes.
first time was a couple years ago. Um, I think there's actually probably around when Matrix Resurrections came out. I went back and I re-listened to a lot of the Blank Check Wachowski episodes,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd seen most of them. I hadn't seen Jupiter Ascending or Cloud Atlas, so I
Okay.
just listened to the whole Blank Check series, and I was like, I need to check these movies out. And like, I just heard from everybody, it's it's garbage. It's terrible. Jupiter Ascending is nonsense. And then
It's
first time I
not.
saw it, I gave it 4 stars. I was like,
It's
this
good
is a
fun.
blast. What are you
Yeah.
talking about? This is so much fun. And then the second time, when I wasn't expecting it to be the literal worst movie ever, I was like, okay, this is. I still like this movie. I'm very
Yeah.
glad it exists. I wish it would have made more money. Maybe wish they would have spent less money or do the very smart thing. I think that a lot of things, maybe there's logistical challenges, but make 2 movies at once. So
Hmm.
that big investment, you can have 2 theatrical windows and maybe even re-release the first one and hopefully make a lot more money than gambling a giant budget on one movie
Mm-hmm.
and then going, maybe not so much.
Yeah. These and like these two movies, like Cloud Atlas and Jupiter Ascending, which came out within a couple of
I
years
still
of
need
each
to
other.
see Cloud Atlas.
Cloud Atlas is like, so the book is maybe one of my favorite novels of all time. It's an amazing book.
Everyone I
And
know who's read it has very high praise for it.
yeah, it's incredible. And David Mitchell in general is just he's an amazing author. But it that book plays with form in really fascinating ways that the movie tries to, and kind of becomes its own thing that I appreciate. Um but it is like, I think people were it's like it was on like the list of like unadaptable books, and I think part of the reason is that you
Oh,
can never
yeah, I would imagine
like
like that. Here, like what I know about the movie, it would make sense. Like, what an undertaking that would be.
oh, absolutely. Yeah, and I think it's really cool that they tried. I think it's kind of an admirable failure mostly. But also both of those movies kind of suffer from the occasional Wachowski disease of not being able to be subtle like ever. And so uh
Well, and I also think, when did I had this conversation with someone recently. I don't remember the example, but I also think with them for like every project they did that wasn't The Matrix, it had the misfortune of being compared to The Matrix.
oh sure.
Because like
Yeah,
when
of course.
you come out like Bound, they kind of made because the studios were like, we can't let these kids make something like The Matrix if they've never made a movie.
Right.
Write like a little crime movie, like get us something so that we can know you make a movie. So they made Bound, which was great and
Hmm.
like won a lot of awards and recently got a Criterion 4K. And
Yeah.
then they made The Matrix, which like literally changed like it changed
Everything.
everything for
Yeah.
movie making.
Yeah.
It changed so many things in so many creative fields. And then you keep going and making more stuff, and everything you make after that has the
Yeah.
misfortune of being compared to The Matrix.
Yeah, I think people are expecting their subsequent movies to be, and I know I was too for a really long time, like The Matrix, in that they're like kind of action forward and like tough and intense and muscular. Not muscular necessarily, but just like like
The
there's a
action
lot
in
going
Jupiter
on,
Ascending
and
kind of slaps, though.
it's good. Um, and I think there's like an era.
I was surprised again. Like,
Yeah.
we don't get a lot of, like, I mean, your John Wicks and what have you. I mean, not really a whole lot. Like, there's John Wick, really.
Hmm.
There's just several of them. Or Mission Impossible. But, like, you don't get a lot of action sequences that are well done in movies a whole lot. You
It's
don't get
true.
that.
Yeah, and I think so. Post Matrix, I'm trying to remember if there's anything. I don't think there's anything between Matrix and Speed Racer. Like Speed Racer is
I
like,
love Speed
I
Racer
love Speed
so
Racer, and
much.
honestly,
I saw that twice opening day, I think, or opening weekend.
when I go back and rewatch the Matrix movies, especially the first one, I can see some of the bits of like heart and soul and like kind of emotional smushiness in like a good way that I think really do actually define their movies. And for me, I don't think people start to realize that that's what they're going to be getting until Speed Racer and like onward. Where they're just, I mean, they're really well made movies, but they're just like intense and kind of goofy. And I don't think anybody was expecting goofy and heartfelt from them. And that caused some issues for a while. And then finally I think we got to a point where we realized that this is what they do. This is actually
This
what
is
it's
them.
always been. Um
Oh yeah,
and
it's not really that many. So it's Bound,
yeah.
the three Matrix movies, Speed Racer, Cloud Atlas, Jupiter Ascending,
Hmm.
Sense8, whatever all that stuff is, and then
Yeah,
the
I
new
think
Matrix.
Sense8 kind of is what helped me kind of realize that that was the direction that it was. I only watched a few of the episodes, but like seeing the kind of vibe of that and the way that people really latched onto it and who latched onto it, I was like, oh, this is the kind of stuff that you're trying to make.
Oh,
This is what you're
for
trying to say. This is who you're making it for. I'm on board now. I wasn't sure for so long. And I think that's kind of where I'm at with Jupiter Ascending too, is that it feels very of a piece with the kinds, like the filmmakers that they really truly are at their heart,
yeah,
which are people with just like big vision, who love interesting characters, they love stuff that looks cool, and they love love. And I like all
yeah.
those things. Why wouldn't I enjoy that?
No, it's over the years growing with the Matrix movies and particularly in light of the fourth one, like I like those are really like sappy romantic movies in addition to being very cool,
Yeah.
action-y, genre-y,
Yeah.
kind of like anime crazy action in 2 and 3,
Yeah.
but like they are very like tender stories.
Yeah. And I do think for me some of that has changed with like with the actual transition of the Wachowskis themselves. Like I feel like the more that they have become their true full selves, the more the movies to me have felt like real genuine expressions of their full true selves. Like there's not
Interesting.
like there's it's an increasing sense of artistic freedom in that like not everything has to make sense. Some things can be goofy. Some things can be sappy. None of this has to hide
Because that's
behind like
all
this
like
hard shell of
that's
sci-fi anymore. It can all be
yeah.
heart all the time.
We're so used to like stuff made by committee now.
Mm-hmm.
Like something that has so much heart made by somebody who cares is so refreshing. Even though like I'll probably be somewhere in the 3 to 4 range, maybe like cuz it's not like a masterpiece, but
No,
it's so
yeah, no.
fun. But like yeah,
It's that
it's
subset of
genuine.
yeah, what people call I think like 5-star, 3-star movies. I feel like this is a 5-star, 3-star
Yes,
movie for me.
totally.
Maybe the 5-star, 3-star movie for me.
Like all the shootouts and like that crazy Chicago action scene that had like
Yeah.
crazy collateral damage and then
Mm-hmm.
everybody's mind was wiped the next day, like
Yeah, yeah.
it's
Um,
yeah, it's so
and
fun.
it's which I remember even at the time like I've watched this movie a half dozen times. How can I not remember it? Just watching that happen and going, well, that can't go like under the radar. You can't like explain that away. And then the next day they have like the conversation about like how that works and you just go, yeah, sure, it's solved. Whatever. I
Yeah,
don't care.
love
I
it,
don't need to
easy.
know.
Yeah, but you just
Which
go
is
like,
funny
man,
because
they took
like
out that whole train.
like
And
when you think about like the Avengers movies, for example, like there is so much talk about like the collateral damage that those characters do. And at the time, initially, I was like, I'm glad that we're talking about this because these, it is cartoon violence, but people's lives are affected. And now, like, I just wish they would shut
when
up
you
about it. Like,
smash
it
into
is
buildings and
way,
stuff, yeah, you're
way
like,
too much. You get like the Sokovia Accords, and like,
yeah,
genuinely, it's for me, it's as bad as the prequel, the Star Wars prequels, where you're talking about trade laws. Where I'm like,
you're going
I'm
back to like,
sure
who
it does have
cares?
everyday relevance. That's not why I'm watching this movie. I don't care.
That's funny.
All I care is like fist go through wall, building go boom. That's it. That's all I need.
That's funny. Did you see Godzilla -1?
I did. I loved Godzilla minus one.
That was oh wait, no, I didn't cover it here. I covered that with somebody else. That was amazing. Like on
Yeah.
with those kind of themes.
And that is actually, I mean, that's actually a really good balance. Because and partly because you're using that collateral damage and the sorrow that comes as a result to comment on something. Like it's
Brilliantly.
a stand-in for the nuclear destruction of Japan.
And
Which
on
is
their
what
nearly
Godzilla has always
40th
been.
film in the series, like being
Yeah.
so like vibrant and fresh, I was like, wow, like
Yeah.
I never even thought about like that.
And it's not necessary. I mean, it's not a story about like, fist go through wall, building go boom. It's the story, like literally the story of the people. Like there's no like superhero stuff involved necessarily. It's like Godzilla does destruction, people have to react to the destruction. That's what that movie is. And so like that, I'm fine with that. There's not like extended lore involved. All I know is that people are trying to recover and do the best they can in the wake of something really horrible, and I love every single one of them with my whole heart. So yeah.
So, Jupiter, what did we think about Mila Kunis and Channing Tatum?
So I've heard people say that they don't think that those characters have chemistry at all, and I kind of saw that a little bit this time. The first few times I've watched that movie, like I am all in, all the way, 100%. Um, I this time I was a little bit more like, maybe it's not as established as it could be, but I don't know. I think when it comes like when rubber meets the road, I think they're doing fine. They're doing a great job.
Yeah, the first time I saw it, yeah, I was like hardcore all in. This time I wasn't like out, but
Hmm.
no, they're still very charming, charismatic people.
Yeah.
Like Mila Kunis is very like sarcastic or whatever, and I didn't love all of that, but like
Hmm.
her and Channing Tatum, like there's scenes where she's like because like he can sense royalty, and then when she becomes royalty, she's like, "Can you say? Are you feeling anything now?" I was like, "Okay, like there's something there."
Yeah, totally. I
It's
also
like, "Do you want to bite me or whatever?" Her line
that was a bit like
was.
we need to
That
tone
was
down the biting thing. Like that's a little
well.
ridiculous.
See, it's
So the
also
whole
like, what is this movie? It's PG-13. I feel
yeah.
like it should have either been PG or R.
Yeah,
It's such a
yeah.
weird PG-13. The
Yeah.
violence
It's
is great. Like,
yeah.
but like if you make it a hard R, then like it has very like stuff that like adolescents can enjoy. So then like you'd be keeping them maybe. But also like when I was a kid, I saw R-rated movies. I don't know.
Yeah. I know.
It's a
It's a
weird
weird
vibe.
space for that to live in. But also like and this comes with like a real lens of nostalgia. Like I remember watching PG-13 movies when I was, in high school that were I'd say roughly about the same level of like all of that adult content and kind of enjoying having to make up the extra stuff in my mind, if that makes sense. I also spent a
Sure.
lot of time on fanfiction.net, so that's who I was in high school. Um, which this
All
movie
right.
fits into that mold really well, actually. Like it's very
Totally.
much a Mary Sue story.
Absolutely.
And like I get that there are problems with that trope, but like I'm still a sucker for it. So I know it's like it worked for a reason. So and I mean that reason is that there were a lot of girls who were obsessed with, certain characters in movies and they wanted to be like an audience surrogate and like I'm fine with that. I'm not mad about it at
Sure.
all. And I think it mostly works in this case. Like they make her character interesting and I think she does go on a journey. I think the idea of like wanting a life that is more exciting and thinking what that life looks like and then getting that life and finding out no, absolutely not, that's actually not what I wanted at all, I need to be my more authentic self, I think is that's helpful. I think it's a little bit more of a refreshing look than you would often get in movies like these where like in most fairy tales like princess marries prince, they live happily ever after, and in this case princess, like literal owner of earth, like goes home and just like has a normal life but with some cool extra perks.
Yeah, I didn't remember that moment because like you're used to in the stories like seeing the bad guys like get it in the end, and like
Yeah.
different people met their fate in different ways, but like some that big moment, I forgot that they had like that like dragon tattoo moment at the end. Where he's like, "Hey, can I kill him for
Yeah.
you?" Like she's like,
Yeah.
"No, let's just go home." It's like
Yeah.
that's an interesting dramatic choice.
I know. It's like nobody really, I mean, apart from Eddie Redmayne, nobody really gets their comeuppance. And that's an interesting choice. I think especially given the world that we currently inhabit, I feel like I don't know, like I want stories that take a stand on certain things, but the reality of it often is that like the bad crappy forces that threaten our entire life force are still there. Like they don't ever really go away. You just have to kind of learn how to live in defiance of them the best that you can with the control that you have. And I feel like that character kind of gets to do that a little bit. If that movie were made today, it might be different. But I think
It
given
could be.
where it is at that moment, I think it's an interesting take on it, even if it doesn't
Yeah, her not
100%
being
work.
like the vengeful, well, and his growth too of like they showed it some. Again, this movie could have definitely used more development because they're like
Yeah.
Channing Tatum's character. He's nuts. Nobody does what he does, and like he does some impressive stuff, but like he kind of does stuff that any hero would do. And then like at one of the big climaxes at the end, he like hesitates and like asks for her permission. He's like, "Should we kill him? Like, do you want
Yeah.
to?"
Yeah.
And that's
I,
interesting. You don't see
yeah.
that a lot.
I do think if you were to get like if this movie were to be a hard R, like part of Channing Tatum's backstory is that he basically Patrick Swayze and Roadhouse a guy,
Oh
and
yeah, Eddie Redmayne.
yeah, or well, yeah,
I think
and
so.
or like
His character.
he did in the past. He
Well, yeah, I think
basically.
that's why his like
Oh,
voice
is
is
that
weird.
it? Okay, I thought he
I
straight
think
up killed that
so.
guy. That's funny.
Oh no,
Okay,
that was my understanding. I
okay,
could
and
be
maybe
wrong.
that's why Eddie Redmayne has such a reedy voice that he no longer has certain vocal
That
cords.
was
But
my understanding. I could be
I like
wrong.
that read. I appreciate that. I think that's good. Because there really aren't that many. Anyway, yeah. Anyway, um, I feel like if we had seen more of his actual capabilities, apart from
I
just
would
like,
have liked that.
shooting people with a gun real good. I think that would have been
Well, yeah,
interesting.
those skates were awesome every time. Like I've only seen it twice,
Yeah.
but like that's why it's like it's great. Dumb late night or weekend viewing.
Oh,
Like
totally.
it's a
Yeah.
lot of fun sci-fi
Yeah.
ideas. Like I would love to have those
The like anti-gravity
levitating roller
boots that
skates
kind of let you,
things.
yeah, exactly, where you're like rollerblading on the sky. Like it's kind of goofy, but would I wear
Yeah,
them? For sure. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I
Um
spoiler alert here, jump into the end. I had forgotten like how many Wachowski movies end with like somebody flying or two
Truly.
people flying
Yeah, or how
together.
many of their movies involve like jumping or falling off of buildings because yeah, Matrix Resurrections does that too. So,
I need to see Speed Racer. I haven't seen that in a minute. I
Speed
love it so
Racer.
much, but it's been a
Yeah.
while.
It's a delight.
They should bring
Yeah,
it
it's
back
been
for
a
the
while for me
theater.
too. Yeah.
When's the
Yeah.
anniversary of Speed Racer?
Absolutely. IMAX that puppy. I would
Oh,
go see that
that
in
would be
IMAX. Can you
amazing.
imagine? It's yeah, I know on the blank check episode of it, they talk about seeing it in the theater for the first time and everybody just losing their minds.
2008. We got the
Ugh.
20th anniversary coming up in a couple of
Come
years.
on, babies, let's make it happen.
Oh, and my kids will be at an amazing age for that in like 3 years.
Oh, wow. Oh, I hope that happens for you. That would be wonderful.
The siblings were sort of distinctive, sort of not.
Yeah.
Like, well, I was saying, like, if there was more movies or more story, like, I would love for her to have a more distinct interaction with each sibling.
Mm-hmm. The one sister definitely doesn't get enough time. Like you get to
It was the
see,
gimmick of like, here's how they use
right,
the
here's how this
resources
works,
of the
basically.
extraction of people. They're like,
Yeah.
bloop, they dump the juice into a pool, and she ages, and she's like, yeah, how old do you think I am? She's like, yeah, I'm like, was like 1100 years old or something like
Right.
that.
She just celebrated her 13th millennia, which is
Oh
insane.
yeah, 13,000. Yeah,
13,000 years old. But yeah, it's you don't necessarily like you all you know is that you can't like trust any of them and you find out why for two of them, but you never really find out what her deal is. So she's kind of an underdeveloped character, unfortunately.
very
Um
much so.
so yeah, it's there are issues in there, but I like in general it's like it's a lot of goofy fun. I appreciate the idea that like just the idea of depleting resources and one of those being time and what do you do with the time that you have, how do you make the most of it, and like I mean these rich folks have just been living in the sky and not doing anything really for anybody but themselves with all of their quote unquote infinite amounts of time, but even that is not infinite
Totally
because eventually you're
irrelevant
gonna yeah
story. Nothing that we
yeah
can latch
you're gonna
on
run out of
to
planets to juice.
or think about
I
at
think
all.
interestingly I actually this earlier this week saw The Death of a Unicorn,
What'd you
which is a
think?
delightful movie. I liked it a lot,
Okay,
actually, and
I'm
there are some
heartened to
similarities.
hear that. It does not.
Um,
Ugh, it looked very questionable.
yeah, I know the trailer made it not great, but I think it's doing some really interesting and clever fun things. It read to me kind of like a mix up of like Ready or Not and Jurassic Park and Troll Hunters, which are all movies I really
Okay,
like, and
I
so
love Ready or Not.
yeah,
I
so
love that.
it's I think this belongs alongside Ready or Not in like the rich people are terrible pantheon. Um and it's like it's interesting because I feel like that movie has some similar thoughts in terms of the resources afforded to the ultra rich, what they use those for, who they tell themselves they are and who they really are.
Totally.
And I feel like that's a thing that shows up pretty frequently in Jupiter Ascending on like a galactic scale, which makes it a little bit harder to like kind of fathom metaphorically, but I think it's still very much there. And I think it all of that kind of lends to um Jupiter making the ultimate choice of just like deciding to go home because that's where people act like actual people and treat each other with care and kindness and are honest about who they are.
And she gets the telescope. That was still
And
very
she gets
touching.
a telescope, which is very touching. She gets like the her not her father's exact telescope, but like a telescope that is like the same model that he would have used. which is very sweet. And she gets to, live alongside her family and also have, a cool boyfriend with sky boots and wings now, apparently. So that's pretty cool.
When you got the
Um,
Matrix Resurrections ending.
yeah, we're at the Matrix Resurrections ending. And,
Just
that's
flying
not a
around
bad
together.
thing. That's,
No.
yeah. And that's not going to last forever, but for the time that it lasts, it's going to be great.
Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. One of the things that I was struck by, probably the first time, but definitely this time, just because taking notes, I had forgotten just the jump scare of both Jeremy Swift and Vanessa Kirby.
Oh yeah, yeah. I had forgotten that Jeremy Swift was in this at all.
He's so like he was laying on that Russian accent hard.
Truly,
But
it's kind of
guy from
charming though. Like I don't hate it.
Ted Lasso and Downton Abbey, he's
Yeah,
so funny.
I can't hate him for that. And yeah, and Vanessa Kirby too. Like before she really was known for anything at all.
Well, yeah, I really like her, but then like for like 80% of this, she was just kind of in her underwear floating around. So I was like, yeah, okay.
Rich lady in her underwear.
But
so
I was like,
she doesn't get
happy
a ton
she's getting
to
work.
do.
I do really like Vanessa Kirby, actually.
Yeah, she's a really good actress. But yeah, this is not necessarily like the most accurate showcase of her talents.
Anything else? There was a lot of toilet cleaning.
There was a lot of toilet cleaning. I feel like that to me almost feels like the most fan fiction-y, fairy tale-y thing.
Oh
of,
yeah.
Of the
Oh
whole
yeah, it's kind of like
movie,
Cinderella-y.
Yeah, it's
like,
very
oh, the
Cinderella-y.
girl cleaning the toilets actually owns the earth.
It doesn't go into like super detail about what is necessary, what her life actually like looks and feels like, apart from like she gets up early every day, she hates it, she has to clean toilet after toilet after toilet.
And once she owns the earth, she loves cleaning those toilets. She's up before everybody.
Are shining bright. But she also happens to know like designers and like what looks good on people, and has a little bit of a materialist streak to her. But
yeah, I feel like if you think about this movie too much, it maybe falls apart a little bit.
Yeah,
it's a fun watch.
It's a fun watch. There are some cool visuals in there. There's some cool ideas that mostly just exist as abstract ideas, and that's fine. I think, for a PG-13 audience, that's really all they need. I don't know that I would have been ready to. No, that's not true. I was a pretty precocious teenager. I was ready for that stuff. But
I mean, I think for the teenagers, they're probably hoping to rope them in with like, aren't Mila Kunis and Channing Tatum attractive, and don't you want to see them fly around and shoot people and kiss? Like,
yeah, for sure. They don't kiss enough, actually. That they leave them making out until like the very end.
They have a couple of good kisses.
They have a couple of good ones in there, though. They get there. I think it's a good like PG-13 level of enjoyment, to where like if you're going with a mixed group of people that are both boys and girls will enjoy it for varying reasons.
Totally.
So this makes it sound like more of a slam dunk than it is. It's a very I mean, I think it should have been more than a slam dunk than it was.
Oh, definitely. But I wonder what the box office was on
I fully understand
how bad was it?
why it wasn't. So, but it deserves a lot more love than it gets. I mean, it did poorly enough to end up on How Did This Get Made, which I get, but I feel like they
what do you guess the worldwide box? Okay, that's not terrible.
Okay,
but the domestic, guess what the domestic box office was?
What was the budget?
I think the budget was like 125. Hold on,
the
budget was nuts.
That movie was not gonna make its money back like ever. How
175 to 210 is the estimated budget and advertising.
That requires like Avengers level performance to actually like.
Yeah, like why would you ever do that?
Your budget back.
But maybe they thought they were. Maybe they thought they were getting like a part one of.
Yeah. Woof. So if you said it did okay.
It did okay worldwide.
Just in general, not necessarily against that budget. It did okay worldwide. Gosh, I'm gonna say, it
did okay worldwide for a movie now.
Okay, interesting. Is it over 10 million?
Domestic?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's over 10.
Okay, 18. I'll say 18.
No, 47. It's okay.
Well, that's respectable.
Worldwide,
against your $125 million budget, that's insane. But
worldwide, it made 184, which is supposedly maybe not even its budget. Which is
Jiminy, that's wow, woof.
Yeah, just make it for like 50. Make it for 50. We need more $50 million movies, which I know is a huge amount.
Sometimes,
but wasn't the creator made for like 20 million or something like that?
Yeah, and like the Brutalist was made for like next to nothing, so
The
it's
Brutalist was made for like 8 million or 10 or
yeah,
something like
it's
that.
yeah, insane.
Did
So
you like
like
The Brutalist briefly? Like, this is a April Fool's episode. We're all over the place here. Because you
I
like
did.
sometimes log on Letterboxd, sometimes don't.
Yeah, I've been getting better about it more lately. And I did log that one. I liked it a lot up until the last 5 minutes, and I was really happy to see that Dana Stevens felt the same way. And I was like, it's not just me, thank goodness.
I would love to listen to the commentary on the Blu-ray
Yeah.
or something, like, or maybe when good old Jibop or whatever, that podcast feed that just puts out commentary tracks that
Oh
rips the
wow,
audio. It's a wonderful feed.
that's incredible.
Um, I would love to hear or read what smart people say about the end, because like I get the themes they're going with, but
Hmm.
I genuinely feel like almost anything other than the exact specific thing that they did would kind of
Yeah,
have more impact,
like yeah, exactly. Like it
because
just
they made
does
very
not stick.
specific choices. Like if somebody else was giving that speech,
Hmm.
or if he was giving a different
And
speech,
I
or if he
get
was
that it
somewhere
kind of
else, or if
loops
he was
around.
actually like,
I get that it kind of
yeah,
loops around to like what we see at the very beginning, but there's not enough consistency through the rest of the movie to make that perspective like to even like sneak it in and be like, "Oh, surprise, this was the dominant perspective all along." That character has been gone from the movie for literal decades before she shows up again. And
yeah,
so
I
like
don't know.
I really don't think it works. It just felt like they got to a certain point and then we're like, "Oh man, we got to land this plane. How are we going to do it?" And then they just like set the ball down and walk away, which I want to give them more credit from that because Brady Corbet and Mona Fastvold are very smart people and they're very good filmmakers. I know they know better
Yeah,
than that. So I just feel like there has to be some kind of intention there that I straight up was not getting.
yeah, I do hope to have that growth in me, but I've only saw it once, but I thought it was astounding, and I
Hmm.
really did not love the ending.
Yeah, it's and I yeah, I'm glad that there are other people who feel that way. And most of the people that I watched it with kind of felt that way too, where we walked out and we're like, what was that about, man? Like, what was the ending of that about?
Like, you
Um,
almost could have had a strong. It would have been very controversial. We almost could have had a stronger ending with just like a cut to black after Guy Pearce disappears.
Truly. Yeah. No, seriously. I mean, that would have been a very kind of There Will Be Blood style ending, and I would have been
Because
fine with
he's
it.
not
I
a
think it would
real
have been great.
guy.
Right.
Dakota would make more sense if it was a real guy.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And maybe they're
But you're like,
trying to
oh,
do
this
that
was
kind of
his legacy, and you're like, he
yeah.
didn't exist.
And
Like,
maybe
what
they're trying
is?
to achieve that kind of verisimilitude, but like also you don't
Well, I
have
know,
to.
like everybody, like I saw
Um
the so many people Googled, like in the weeks that it came out, like, was
oh,
Laszlo
yeah.
Toth a real guy or
Not a
whatever?
real guy. And I get that that's also I mean that's kind of a thing that they do. I mean, that was certainly the case with Childhood of a Leader, which is a movie that I love, but that movie ends on kind of an open ambiguous note where there's like a big chunk of time that's been lost between like most of the movie and what you see at the ending, and you're kind of left to sort of fill in the blanks, and those blanks are fascinating to fill in. But this one it just did not have the same kind of tidiness to it that I was hoping for.
I agree. Well,
The
that was the
credits the
brutalist corner,
yeah. Yeah. The credits song is an
everybody.
absolute bop though. Love it. Absolutely love
Totally.
it. Yeah.
Very much.
I'm here for Italian disco as much of it as you will throw at me. But yeah,
Which was
anyway, yeah.
also weird after the ending of the body of the movie and the weird jump. So I was like,
Right.
I need a very smart person to
Yeah.
write like
Yeah.
500 words on this and help me out.
Which again, I was really happy to see that Dana Stevens wrote that piece because I was like, she's one of the smartest people working in like film criticism today. So if that was a problem for her, it's okay that it's a problem for me.
Vindication.
Vindication. Anyway, yeah, Brutalist Corner over there in its little
So
concrete box.
I kind of do want the Blu-ray, but then I'm like, how many times am I going to sit down and watch it
Right.
from beginning to end at home?
But knowing that you could though is the thing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And
Like
those 824 Blu-rays are real nice.
they
I like
are.
their packaging.
Yeah.
I only own one. I just got Sing Sing.
Oh, I bet that's nice. Is it nice? What is it?
Yeah.
Let's do a Blu-ray corner. What have you got?
Oh man, I've been kind of buying a lot lately.
Yeah.
What? I just got what are the sales? They had the Radiant sale. I've got the Hard Boiled Crimes coming soon. My big one that I got a little while ago, and I talked with this about Alyssa when I had her on for her Joan Didion book. Didn't
Oh, yay!
realize she wrote an essay for the Imprint Scorsese Faith set with
Girl.
Last
Okay.
Temptation,
Okay.
Kundun, and Silence. It's
Okay.
pretty
That's pretty
great.
sick. Um yeah, I just did a pre-order of How to Get Ahead in Advertising on the last Criterion half off sale, which
Nice.
I'm quite excited to
In the
finally
flash sale,
own.
I only purchased, which I like had a moment when I got it, just like that it exists was so just flabbergasting and amazing to me. I just got the Godzilla versus Biollante 4K Blu-ray.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite Godzilla movies, and it's my birth year Godzilla movie, and it's just such a great nutso movie. And it has like a Criterion 4K. Like, how crazy is that?
Yeah, that's
And then one of my buddies upgraded Dreams to 4K and gave me his Blu-ray. So that came
nice.
actually on the same day as Godzilla. So I got
Nice,
those
nice,
two.
nice. Yeah, I think the previous I tend I guess I just buy a lot of British movies on the Criterion flash sales. And I guess handmade films too, which
I want to
again,
get that David Lean set. That's on my
yeah,
list for the next one. The Lean Directs whatever.
that would be good. But yeah, the last one I got was The Long Good Friday, which I think much like How to
Nice.
Get Ahead in
I need to see
Advertising
that
had been out
again.
of print for a long time. It's oh my god,
Yeah.
I love that movie so much. Um yeah, I got to once I got that, I got to bring my 4K over and show my friends. It was like this is this movie that I've been obsessed with since college, and we all left it and we were like, that was great. Like, yeah, of course, it's an amazing movie.
I
But I've
love
never seen How to
doing
Get Ahead
that.
in Advertising, but I am a huge fan of With Mel and I, so I want to, bone up
I
on my
can't
Bruce
wait to
Robinson.
get with
So,
Nail and I. The other one, because they're having the Paramount half off sale at Barnes and Noble.
oh,
I've never purchased this physically. I finally got the Twin Peaks Z to A whole thing.
oh,
It's got the
that's cool.
4K pilot and episode 8 of The Return, and then everything else on
I may
Blu-ray.
have to jump on that. That's pretty good because I
It was
have
less than $40 for
for the
season
whole thing.
1, 2, Firewalk with Me, and The Return,
That's a
and
great
with a
deal, bud.
4K of the pilot and episode 8.
Okay. Okay.
And I think they're really going in on the 4K. Like, there probably will be a 4K of everything one day,
Yeah.
because not only did they have the 4K of the pilot, they had the 4K of like the international version of the pilot where they added scenes and like
That's
Bob was
incredible.
just actually the killer.
Cuz see I have got Paramount Plus
Sort of
currently.
spoilers, I guess.
Yeah. So that I can watch Yellow Jackets, and that's been how I've been catching up
Oh,
on the Twin
I
Peaks.
need to catch up. I
Yeah.
love Yellow Jackets, but I somehow stalled out in season 2. I'm almost done with season 2, and now I need
Okay.
to get on for the third
Season
one.
2 is good. Season 3 has been a very, very, very slow start, kind of to a frustrating point when it's
How many
finally.
seasons are they going to go? Because like
I don't know.
I want like the girls on the island keep getting older
I
as
know. That's true. They're not going to be teenagers
because
forever.
this is all supposed to be like they were there for like less than a year or
I
like.
think no, I think they were there for like 3 or close
Oh,
to
were
3
they?
years. And
Okay.
so we're approaching second winter. And so that's
Oh,
a
okay.
thing.
But I mean, like if you
Um
look at like when it's all done and you get the DVDs or whatever, like the girls on season 1 at the
I
beginning
know.
and the girls on season
Yeah.
6 or 7 or
Like
whatever,
some of
like
them look taller this season for sure,
oh
but
yeah,
yeah, it's the stuff.
it's good.
It is. It's great, but it's taken a long time to finally get to like the meat of the actual drama, and we're in like the last 3 episodes. So like
Eh?
it's stuff that should have. Yeah, me. Yeah, I
No,
get
I
it.
do look forward. Maybe I don't know if I'll catch up before the actual finale happens, but
Yeah,
my friends who are watching it are enjoying it very much.
yeah, it's good. And I was excited this season to finally see Emily St. James and Libby Hill their episodes because they started working on it this season.
Nice.
And
I
yeah,
hear
and it's
some of the
good.
guest stars are nuts on season 3.
Yeah, they are. And again, we've only seen like two, one or two, and we're like 3/4 of the way through. So I don't know.
Interesting.
My issues. I've been. We've got so many mystery box shows going on right now, and
Oh,
I
do
want.
we?
Well, there's that and Severance basically,
Oh, okay.
and I love them both so much. that like I am
Hope they land
constantly
the planes well.
exactly, and I'm constantly terrified that they're just gonna like completely jump the
Season 1
shark.
of Yellow Jackets was just so wild. You're like,
Yeah,
this is
yeah,
amazing. And
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, I hope it stays good. I hope it stays good.
Exactly. I'm still kind of on like I hope it stays good still with Yellow Jackets. I am um confirmed still good with Severance. Like that season
Because
2 was
Showtime usually makes good stuff,
so
but they're
good.
also basically making young Dexter.
I
So you
know,
never know.
exactly. Like there's just yeah, half the shows on there I'm just like that's a thing. Um
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm keeping that Paramount Plus subscription so I can finish out the Yellow Jacket season and hopefully watch Escape at Dannemora, which I've never seen. So
I would
that's the
like to
plan.
see that too. I've got a very generous friend lending me their login, and I hope
Oh,
Paramount continues to support multiple logins.
that would be great. Cause
Or I'll
yeah,
binge it one day.
we can each only afford so many streaming services. So
Yeah, no, I share with friends and get shared with a lot. I probably actually, at this point, maybe have more things that I don't pay for than what I
that's
do.
fair. I'm at the paying for a lot stage of my life, but that may
But I
change
also use the
eventually.
library a lot too. Hopefully, we'll
I
still have libraries by the time
yes, yeah, yeah. I
Yellow Jackets
actually
is over.
I know. No, I've finally have started going back to getting more stuff out of the library than I have in previous years, and it's so weird to like rediscover it as a resource. It feels like the dumbest thing imaginable, where you're like, they have this, yes, they always did, and you knew that. But yeah, it's good to have it. And it also requires a certain amount of planning ahead, which is also kind of nice instead of just sort of having fatigue and not knowing what you want to watch and like clicking through a bunch of things that are available at your fingertips instead of knowing that you only have like a week and a half to watch this DVD and maybe you need to,
True.
get through it. So, um, but yeah, I
Well,
think
we kind of covered this, but specifically, substance shoutouts. Is there anything in particular that you want to wholeheartedly say, hey, I watched, listened to, read
oh
this?
gosh,
It was
yeah,
great. Check it out.
yeah. I let's see. Yeah, so I talked about Death of a Unicorn. That's a super fun one. I would
I'm
recommend
so
that.
like, when I first heard about it, I was like, oh, yeah, watch list. And then I saw the
Yeah.
trailer and I was like, maybe.
I was fully not like I was not entirely convinced about it, and then I saw a few good reviews from out of South by Southwest, and I was like, all right, I'll give it a try. And I want to, A24 is still for now putting out interesting things, and so I wanted to give it a shot, and I was really glad that I did.
I'm
It was
glad.
and I think it's a really different vibe for A24 movies. Like they generally are not this like broad and goofy.
Well,
Um,
that's what I was wondering. It's like, oh, is A24 just buying goofiness and slapping their name on it?
I mean, it's smarter than that. Like it's like the
Okay.
kind of like if you liked Ready or Not, it's very like vibe wise very similar, and kind of achieving some of the same goals. And it was kind of cool to see them supporting that because it's honestly I'm more surprised this isn't a Neon movie. It feels like it should be a Neon release.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's I think we're at like an interesting convergence of like A24
I
and
think one
Neon
of my
where like
shoutouts will be a neon release,
yeah,
actually.
where like they're starting to go different directions and like Neon is starting to get a little bit more prestige while A24 is starting to loosen up a little bit. And I don't hate either one, but I do think that's an interesting trajectory to watch, and I am curious to see where it will lead.
That's true. So for me, uh, I, hmm, how do I frame this? Well, actually, so you and I together here at Kansas City at Screenland, we went to go see Longlegs opening night. That
Hmm.
was quite an experience. I get to hang out with you and your crew. We were both pretty underwhelmed from what I
Yeah,
remember. Is that
yeah,
fair for you too?
yeah. It's and I are you about to recommend The Monkey, which
Yeah,
I
I had
loved?
so much fun.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I love, I mean, Stephen King, like, not every adaptation is great, but I really like, he's fun, spooky stories. And like when they adapt his shorts, sometimes those are some of the best ones. So I was like,
Hmm.
okay. And Osgood Perkins, I know some of his early stuff was well regarded. I didn't get to see any of his early stuff before I saw Longlegs. Longlegs marketing was next level,
Yeah,
like
outstanding.
10 out of 10. But the movie itself, man, it was so muddled and wonky. And that was all from him. That was like written, directed,
Hmm.
like that all came from him. So I was like, is this a guy who I like? I don't know. But then the monkey, was just so much fun.
Yeah.
So much fun.
Yeah. And I am, and I know I'm not alone in this. There are a lot of folks out there, myself included, who like want nothing more than to love an Osgood Perkins movie because like his ideas are so interesting, and I think like the visually, I think they're really stark and very, very cool. But none of them had really landed for me until The Monkey, where I was like, oh, this is it. This is great. This guy has a perspective. He has a sense of humor. He knows exactly what he's doing. This is the
It
whole
was so
package.
funny. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, listeners, beware, extremely gory.
Oh
Extremely,
my
extremely
gosh.
gory.
Yeah.
So if you're not, also Adam Scott, he's come up so much.
That's
I forgot at
right.
the beginning.
Yeah.
But
Hey,
I was smiling
buddy.
from the beginning when Adam Scott came in there. But yeah,
That had to
a
have been a fun scene
real
to shoot too. But
stinking good time.
yeah, yeah.
And like
As
it has an emotional story. There is, I don't think we'll ever, I mean, that might be a fun April Fool. Like
Mhm.
there is some substance there. Like it is a
Oh, a
family
billion
drama
percent. Yeah.
underneath
Yeah.
that about like family curse. Like I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of horror
I
movies have been about that lately too.
Yeah, I actually weirdly ended up watching that and the latest Bridget Jones movie within like about 24 hours of each other, and I
Whoa,
found both of them like weirdly profound on the subject of like death and the knowledge of mortality.
interesting.
In that like I really like the general idea that like we're all going to die and that sucks. So while we're
Yep.
here, let's have a good time. And I was like, that's yes, that's the entire thing basically. While we're here, let's be good to each other and have a good time. And like that, what more could you ask for,
And
really?
don't twist the key on the monkey.
Yeah, don't twist the key in the monkey. Don't make it hard for other people. Just do it. Just live your life. Yeah, I enjoyed that a lot. As my friend Willie texted me, I like it when the monkey make people explode.
Yeah, I couldn't believe how much fun I had. I think I haven't got to see a ton of new movies yet.
Mm,
I think that's currently my highest rated movie of the year at four and a
okay.
half.
Yeah,
I
that's
just had a
good.
great time.
Good. Yeah. Yeah, Black Bag was also a really high ranking one for
I
me
need to
recently,
see
which is
that.
like, oh, it's
What did I
it's
see?
really good. And that movie is like it's so mature and adult that it made me feel like I was not a mature enough person just by watching it. I
Your
was like,
review made
yeah.
me laugh so hard when you said something like that.
I need to make some changes in my life.
What even was that last? What did I just go? Oh, Mickey 17. That's what I saw
Ah,
instead
Mickey
of Black
17 is
Bag.
great. Yeah.
It's kind
And
of fun.
actually, Death of a Unicorn would make really interesting co-programming with Mickey 17, I think. So,
Interesting.
yeah. Vibe and
So,
theme wise, I think there's some crossover there.
no, I'll check it out when it hits like Max or
Yeah.
Canopy or whatever. Like a lot of
Absolutely.
the
Yeah, it's worth
A24
seeing.
stuff will go like to streaming real fast,
Pretty fast, yeah. The whatever it was, what the 90-day window thing kind of doesn't exist that much anymore. I don't
which
know.
is sad. It
It
should.
is. I think we should bring it back.
Because there's so much stuff to watch and read.
Yeah. That's
We
true. I
don't
mean,
need every
we
movie
are inundated with a
immediately
lot of that
on our
stuff.
TV.
Yeah. But also I have been reading and enjoying Alyssa Wilkinson's book as well that you had her
Oh,
on to talk about, her Joan Didion book.
so good.
It's great.
I just picked up A Year of Magical Thinking at the store that
Nice.
we had your book signing at.
Oh, lovely. At Flagship?
Flagship? Yes.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah, it's as somebody who has not read a ton of Joan Didion, it really made me want to like dig in and like kind of get the whole thing and
I don't
become better
know if
read on
I've
her.
read no, same.
Yeah.
Hard same. I don't know if I read any of her. Like I
Yeah.
maybe have read some of her individually like published essays, but like none
Right.
of
Yeah,
her
like that's the most
collections.
of it. Yeah, none of
I've
the
not read
collections
any of
hardly.
it.
Yeah, I don't have anything profound to say on the subject of Joan Didion other than I would like to know more about her. So this
Good
is a
work,
good, yeah,
Alyssa.
yeah, good work, Alyssa. Great entry point. So
All right. Well, it's always good talking to you, Abby.
yeah,
Thanks for the time. And yeah, go check put Jupiter Ascending on some weekend when you're just
yeah,
looking for a fun, decent time.
yeah. Grab some popcorn, get snuggly,
It
watch
might
a
even
goofy
be more
movie.
fun with more people. Because
Honestly,
like there are a
yeah,
lot of silly things happening.
there are. It's true. Yeah. Maybe
Be
grab
a
a
fun
couple of,
movie night
if you
movie.
have like cool, fun teenagers in your life, maybe watch it with them and see what they think.
Totally.
That was my conversation with Abby Olcese on Jupiter Ascending and a few other things. A little bit more meandery than usual, but we had a good time and it was kind of a bit of a bonus episode here. So thanks for joining us. If you want to send us over some suggestions for future topics, whether they're substance episodes or substantive cinema episodes, you can do that over at thesubstancepod@gmail.com. We always appreciate everybody. If you haven't yet, open up your podcast app of choice, hit the 5-star button, and if it lets you, write a sentence or two as a review. That helps people find the show. It helps the podcast players put them higher up in people's feeds. We always appreciate that. And if you have a couple extra bucks and you'd like to give us a few, you can do that over on Cash App at $thesubstancepod. So that's our bonus episode for April Fools here. Tune in next week at the regular time on Monday for a substance episode with returning guest and friend of the show, Alexis Bassetti. I've been your host, Philip Marinello, and we will see you next time on The Substance.
Our ride's here. You ready?
Ready. Okay.
This movie is sci-fi. This movie is about as sci-fi as you can get.